being the voice of possibility made me think about how there were many moments growing up when I felt as though I didn't have a voice. For example, when I was 6 years old, standing before boys slightly older than me, I could see from their expressions and hear from their tone of voice and feel from one of their kicks in that school playground that they did not want me around. More importantly, I realized that I didn't have the linguistic knowledge to stand up for myself because I couldn't speak English. That's one of the smaller and more palatable examples that I'll use today to demonstrate what I mean when I say I felt as though I didn't have a voice. Given that I was incapable of speaking anything other than Persian at that time, I was given little, if any, homework, which was great. Most of my evenings would be spent putting on some CD and freestyle dancing as a child. Now, I didn't realize it at the time, but freestyle dancing was a way in which I unleashed the energy that I had pent up during those moments in which I could not respond linguistically. To this day, freestyle serve that very same purpose for me. It's a way in which I vent. Slowly, with my index finger under words in books meant for children much younger than me, I began to construct sentences in English out loud. I learned how to say stop, how to say no. Gaining access to words and their meaning allowed me to create boundaries in my new context, to express myself, and to understand the people around me. Now, during this time, I moved around a lot. I went to 6 different schools here in the UK. I went from leaving out all the T's in my words to sounding like this, enunciating all of them, influenced completely by my environment at that time. Now, I am sad to say that by the time I moved to Edinburgh, age 16, my brain was unable to develop any more accents, despite my love for the Scottish one. And having to explain that I'm from Edinburgh, I know I don't have the Scottish accent because I grew up in London, so I guess I'm also from London, hence the accent. And no, my name is not English because I was born in Iran, so I guess I'm also from Iran, hence the physical features, is often how most introductory conversations start when people ask me where I'm from, followed consequently by, no, where are you actually from? Regardless, it was liberating being able to communicate. And because for most of us, developing language skills is something that occurs naturally at the same time as the rest of our peers, we often take its powers for granted because it seems so seamless. That is, of course, unless we go on to learn a new language, which is what I went to continue to do at university, where I studied modern languages and cultures. Being able to go to another country and interact with the people of the country, especially when you have an understanding of the culture, makes that interaction more than just a transactional dialogue. It becomes a way of understanding one another, of being heard and seen, understanding your lives. It's a form of connection, something which we are all after in some way or another. Now, as life was progressing, I was finding myself feeling disconnected and somewhat alone. It's because the experiences that I was going through were not being reflected by those immediately around me. Often the arts provided me access to being heard and seen, not because I was personally vocalizing my experiences, but because a song, a painting, a character in a movie became my voice. Artists' expressions of an experience, an emotion, a moment resonated with me. I felt heard. I felt seen. I felt unalien. I felt human. I felt less crazy. I felt worthy. I felt like I belonged. And that's the power of a work of art that can encompass a voice. It's one of the reasons I create, partly because genuinely, if I don't, I might implode, and partly because my processing of a thought or an experience or an emotion that's not subjected to the cross-examination of what is right and what is wrong might resonate with maybe just maybe one other person. I don't do it to be a role model. In fact, what I express might not be so pretty, it might be raw. But it's my way of speaking the truth, my truth. It's my way of saying, this happened, I felt it, and it was real. And other times I do it to make sense of something. There isn't one single reason, there are many. When I created the trilogy High, which includes 2 videos and a song, I had to grapple with the contradictions that I embody. The trilogy is about the intoxication of an addictive type of love, the imprisonment of that existence, time, and the inability to recognize yourself in the mirror. Directing and editing my videos has been a wonderful experience because, as someone who has studied film theory and cinema, I think deeply about every shot, about implementing the male gaze and subverting it, about questioning whether my expression of sexuality is mine or that of others, about expressing sexuality and a clear submissiveness visually, and yet the person expressing it is in complete control of the way the video is directed and edited. The arts have the power to communicate our existence and our experiences. They can act as a time capsule that can be returned to. Even if it is just the house bop that you dance to all summer with your mates, it doesn't always have to be so complicated and layered. Both can coexist harmoniously. And yet, regardless of the complexity of the artistic expression, it can tap into your unconscious mind and your senses to trigger a memory or an emotion, and that is complex. One of my lecturers at university who taught me about postmodernism and the concept of language as being once removed from the essence of being, which essentially means, for example, if I have a feeling and I express it using words, you then listening to it will use more words and connotations and synonyms to understand what I'm saying. And as a result, you lose that initial essence of what I was trying to convey. He also taught me how music has the potential to access what language sometimes cannot. That's the visceral and the ineffable. And we've seen it happen time and time again. I mean, look at the emotional response to Sharvina Hajipour's song Baraye, meaning for or because of, which he released during the first initial stages of the first female counter-led revolution happening in Iran. The first 2 chords of the song will inevitably trigger an emotional response in me. Why? Because it taps into the visceral and ineffable. That pain, that suffering, that sense of understanding. That is then given meaning to through the tool of language, which are the lyrics. These lyrics are tweets that he collates for all the reasons that Iranians are protesting today. For the fear of dancing in the street, which is illegal. For the fear of kissing your lover in the street, which is illegal. For my sister, for your sister, for our sisters, for women, life, freedom. One song has become the anthem of protests in a nation stripped of so many of their basic human rights. Through the potent combination of language and music, Sharvina Hajipour expresses not only his sense of voicelessness, but the voicelessness of our fellow brothers and sisters in Iran. I am grateful for the moments that I felt alone. I am grateful for the moments that I felt unheard. I am grateful for the moments it felt as though I had lost everything. I am grateful for the moments of silence that I savored, observed, and absorbed, because they made me realize the power of my voice, to stand up for what I believe in, to connect with the people around me, and to make sense of an ugly situation through the beauty of art. I do have a piece of advice before I leave, however, coming from personal experience. If you are listening to a playlist for a cathartic experience, make sure in that playlist you include something lighthearted and uplifting so that you don't spiral. That may or may not have happened, but we'll never know, so moving swiftly on. And if you do feel alone, I guarantee that there is someone somewhere feeling the exact same emotion, even if it is in a different context. And if you look closely enough, you'll find a piece of art that will acknowledge what you're going through, if you're looking for that acknowledgement. That can be acknowledging heartbreak, a sense of loss, grief, or just the fact that you are absolutely killing it in that outfit. Thank you.